So what I did though is at that point I did a self-assessment. I think this is important. If if you're doing something, maybe it's not failure so much in what you're doing, but maybe the industry's changed, the market's changed, right. Something outside of your control, right? Sometimes you got to hit pause and take some time to think about your life. What do you want? Assess what happened, what you did, what you enjoyed about it, and can you turn something into something else? Can you do something else with all that experience?
You're listening to Entrepreneur Journeys, where I share insights and strategies based on owning and managing businesses while traveling and living on 3 continents. I also interview business owners about their journey, what they learned along the way, and how that can help you with your business growth. For more resources to accelerate your entrepreneur journey, head over to gapologist.com, where I share resources, events, community, and more. I'm your host, Joe Matz. Let's get started. With us today is Matt Levenhagen, and he is a return guest because we had so much fun and so much information, and it was just a great podcast a few months ago. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you for having me back. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I've been waiting for the correct amount of time to traverse before you could come on the show again as a guest.
Oh, you got a time frame? Can't
yeah, it wouldn't be right if
every week.
It wouldn't be right if you came on the next week. Unless we were co-hosts, and that would work, right?
Yeah. Maybe someday. Who knows?
Yeah, but I've seen a whole lot of things going on with social media, and I'm always seeing your posts, and always just great information that you're putting out there. And we'll get to that. But we want to know, where do you hail from today?
I am hailing from West Dallas, actually, Wisconsin, by Milwaukee, a little suburb of Milwaukee.
Okay.
And
Yeah, so great. And
sunny day.
It's a sunny day?
Yeah.
Great. Beautiful air. I imagine there's a lot of sunny days there.
Not in the wintertime. So we have a lot of cloud cover in the wintertime. So now the spring's here. We're actually starting to see sun more. So that's good.
Okay, great. And, we got into your story a little bit last time, and we want to talk about your story and how that progressed and how that evolved and how you evolved and how your business evolved at the same time. But here, I do want to ask you this, Matt. When you were younger, say elementary school, middle school, high school, that kind of age range, was there any indication that you would own your own business?
There was an indication I wouldn't. I'm going to throw you a curve. I don't think I was, I certainly, when I was a teenager, I was getting jobs and stuff, or I got jobs. I worked at McDonald's in high school, and I think they tried to get me to drive a tractor at a farm once, and I wasn't very good at it. But I remember we had paper routes, like that's like the first probably thing I needed to do responsibly, but I was not very good at doing it responsibly. I would actually help other people with their routes. And
so you were like the first gig economy employee there or business owner.
Yeah, well, I didn't even have my own route. I would fill in for other people. What would you call those, subs, or I don't know what it was called, but if somebody couldn't do their route, they would call in me, and I really messed somebody's route up once.
Oh man, well I had a paper route too. A friend and I would deliver 150 papers every morning before school. So we'd wake up at 4:30, deliver those papers. It took us 3 hours. And I couldn't imagine taking somebody else's route because you get used to it. You know which house gets the paper, who doesn't get the paper.
Yeah. Well, so the last time I did it was I don't even know how old I was doing this thing. And I remember I forgot I forgot I had to do it. And so then I was doing it last minute. And then I just completely just was throwing papers everywhere. I don't know. I don't think I got half the houses correct. And that was the end of that. That was not going to be my career going forward. So that indication I wasn't really that responsible as a child. And very easily distracted, I guess. And there was nothing. So in my family, my parents both worked. My dad worked at John Deere. Have you ever heard of John Deere? For over 30 years. So he was kind of lifelong there. But he did have a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit that I picked up on, I think. He, before he retired, he started a little computer repair business. And he had gone back to school and he was taking business, and he was, I think he always kind of had that dream to run a business too. And he did that he retired from John Deere in his 50s, somewhere in there. And then for like the next 20 years, he ran his own little business, small business in middle of Wisconsin, Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. So I think that was there. I think I saw my father doing those type of things, or, talking about that stuff. But I really, in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an architect for a while. I wanted to be this, that, and the other thing. Went to college not knowing what I wanted to do. And then I decided that I landed on wanting to be an artist.
An artist?
A painter.
Like a visual artist?
Like a fine artist, like actually on canvas, stretching my own canvas, painting, more kind of abstract. I call myself expressionism. But so I did that actually for like 5-6 years when I was just out of high school, or probably 19 to about mid-20s. And I bartended to pay the bills.
Okay.
I was a struggling artist. And
classic.
Yeah, classic struggling artist. And I did that for a number those years. And that is where I started to learn business, because I had to, that's where I started picking up my first business books. When I went to college, I took an intro to business, in economics, and I didn't stay long. It was like one semester, but I went back to school for a little while later. That's another part of the story. But I started because I needed to sell art. And so I did shows. I did my own shows. I organized my own shows locally, and I had other artists join me in my shows. So, and I did some commission work. And so that's where I started to really get the taste for entrepreneurship. I think it's kind of a weird thing. I was creative, but there was always this other business side of me that kind of came along for the ride.
So I see a little bit of, I know what you do today, and the organizing of an event, let's say. I can definitely see how some of that experience, good or bad, helped you to what you're doing today. There's the seeds of organizing people and events and projects.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I never thought about that. It was interesting because it was, I guess I learned that stuff on the fly, but, creating the flyers, getting the word out. And I did it like I was working in the bar, like there was
in the bar.
It was in a bar. It was actually at a Legion Club. And on the top level, there was like a big hall. And so I just took over that hall, and then I invited all the local people, all my family. I had family would come, and I did it a couple times. And and there were some local artists I invited, and just, organizing it, planning it, setting everything up. And it was, and I sold some art.
And sold some art. And well, it sounds like that's a great kind of training ground for organizing things and running a group of people, and, having employees and delegating and coordinating,
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened then after you decided that, you moved on from doing that?
Yeah, I always blame it on a girlfriend at the time. But in my mid-20s.
I'm not going to touch that.
No, it's serious. There was a pivotal moment. I had this girl, she broke up with me because her father, and you gotta picture me at this time, right? I have long hair. Like I'm a true artist. I have all one length hair, ponytail, and but he owned a local business, and he was like this big shot or whatever, and he didn't want his daughter to be with me anymore. We dated for like a year and a half, and at that moment, I'd already been a struggling artist for a number of years, and I was just doing bartending. And I didn't feel like I was getting a lot of traction, and I think something broke me at that point and into a different direction. I decided to go back to school for business. And I took lots of business courses at MATC here, like a local tech college. Mm-hmm. And so I did that for like a year and a half. And then I was just transferring to UW-Madison or Milwaukee, and started to go there. And then I got into the insurance business. Somebody I knew at the bar had an insurance agency. He said, why don't you come work for me? And 6 months later, we were Allstate. 6 months later, we decided to actually start our own independent agency, and did that for a few years. And so actually, that was my next kind of business venture with a partner.
Yeah, interesting. So, I find it very instructional that you went back to school to learn. You realized you wanted to learn more about business. You needed to learn more about business, and you went back to school to do that. Yeah, so important. So important to get a foundation.
Yeah, I really felt, because I think I knew that I wanted to do still. I think I had the two things. I had the art and I had business, which is a weird combination, but art kind of, I needed a break from art, or, was failing me. I wasn't achieving my vision. So what else am I going to do? Learn about business and see if we can get better at that and do something with that. And that informed a lot of things going forward. I did that for, like I said, when I got into the insurance, that became my full-time gig, and I was excited. I was making money, and there was a lot of potential, and I dropped out of school again. But I had a really good foundation, though. I had taken a lot of classes and learned a lot, and then that just kind of swept me forward through that. And then some more business stuff after that. After I left that agency, I actually had a contracting business for a couple of years, did a match painting and repair, MPR remodeling, and then I discovered the internet in the early 2000s. And that's a whole other story.
And that's a whole nother story, because that is where you work today. Is that correct?
I'm still in the internet business.
Still in the internet business.
Doing some different things.
Yeah.
But I because I was also with the business and the art, I also always loved computers. I always loved tinkering with electronics and stuff. There's that in the story as well. And I actually, how I discovered the internet, and particularly the making money on the internet thing, was I'd done the contracting thing, and then I still was doing insurance, and then I started Levenhagen Insurance Agency, and so I had a little agency. I was starting to build that and grow that. I was independent. I didn't have the partner anymore, and I needed, this is like 2002-3. I needed a website. Mm-hmm. So the only reason I wanted that website was because I had a business card. And somewhere along the line, I realized it might look good for me to have a URL on my business card.
Right. So in those early years, people weren't going to the internet for information. Most people weren't doing that. But there was a positioning thing about having a URL and having your own website.
Yeah, I think whether it was giving me a little more authority, look more established. I was always thinking. I to this day I think about that. What first impression am I giving, or what am I giving as a brand, as an impression on people, and just be able to, back then it was a lot of giving out cards, and I felt like that was just something a little different, a little more I could do than maybe the average person didn't have, or whatever, even established agencies at that time. So yeah. And then what happened was, so I was a go-getter. I always wanted to try to, I was selling auto, home, commercial business, and a little bit of life, health. But I kept wanting, I always like cross-selling, and I already got the business. Let's see if we can sell them something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to sell them a dental plan.
A dental plan. Well, okay.
A dental plan. And there was a site called dentalplans.com. And I went there and actually so I was so used to, up until that point, talking to representatives like from insurance companies and stuff, and there was paperwork and all this stuff. This guy just said I needed to here's what we call an affiliate link. You just put that on your website.
Yeah.
And then if you get a sale, you get credit for it. I'm like, not having any idea how, the internet worked. I didn't like that seems weird and too easy, but okay. And a few months later, I got my first like $40 commission for selling a dental plan, and the rest is history.
And that's when the light bulb went off, right?
I'm like, what is this affiliate marketing thing? I did it sitting at home doing nothing.
Right.
I've been chasing that ever since.
So did you then get into affiliate marketing for other companies and services?
The way I kind of approached it, I wanted to try everything then. Like, where does it end? What other things can you make money at? So I was exploring affiliate marketing, but I was also getting into like resale rights and so resale products, and maybe trying to, info products, and started to like test a lot of different waters. I was hanging out in a lot of internet marketing forums. There was a forum called the Warrior Forum. Some people might know out there. And they're still around. They're owned by different people, but I don't hang out there anymore. But I was really in all kinds of forums. And so I tried a lot of different things. But what I did settle in, I found a good system to make money with pay-per-click and affiliate marketing. Mm-hmm. And it was in the early times, it was more like direct traffic to affiliate offers. And then and I started making money doing that. And then talking about it in some of the private forums and stuff, somebody convinced me to write a report about my methods and what I was doing. I had learned the methods from other gurus back then, but I kind of created my own spin around that. And it was more about, from my perspective, it was more about testing markets. And so I created this little 30-page ebook report, and I put it out there in that private forum. I was one of the private forums I was in that was dedicated to AdWords and pay-per-click, and the Warrior Forum. And I ended up selling like 300 copies the first week. And now I was in the world of products and selling digital products.
Creating digital products.
Yeah. And so I actually did bring in, I had a partner at the time, and we decided we're going to back end a membership. And that's when I got into memberships. And then, but through all that, so I did that for a number of years. Actually, that product turned into a larger ebook and expanded, and we had a couple memberships, did all this stuff. This is all through the 2000s. And through all that, though, I started building websites, right? I was doing niche marketing. I was building my own sites. I was writing my own copy and doing a lot of promotions and learning about internet marketing and how to market, drive traffic, SEO, all of that stuff. But for myself in those years. Right.
For your affiliate marketing business.
For my affiliate marketing business, for selling my own digital products.
Okay.
I had a sales page up for the product name was Campaign Blasts, and I was blasting lots of campaigns.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
So I was the campaign blaster, and I built a community around that. We had blast challenges. We had a lot of people. I had like a forum full of hundreds of people doing, I was teaching these methods, and sold thousands of this ebook over time. And that's what I did in those years. But what happened was a lot changed in those years too. What we could do in the Wild Wild West days in the early 2000s, you could not do towards 2010, 11, 12. Yeah. It started to get really tough between the merchants tighten their requirements and what you could do and couldn't do. And Google over those years introducing landing pages, requirements, and quality scores, and a lot of the stuff that we were doing that to quickly test markets wasn't working as well. And I started to have to, teach people more about how to reopen their AdWords accounts when they got banned or
Okay.
all that stuff closed down. So, okay, this is how you open another account under a different name. That's when I knew it was kind of over.
Right. Would you like to get in front of more of your ideal clients and at the same time build your brand and create evergreen content? Well, you can do that with podcast guesting. This very moment, you're listening to a podcast that may have been published today or 3 weeks ago or 3 years ago. In a very real sense, you're engaging with the speakers, hopefully enjoying yourself and learning something new at the same time. And you're getting to know the guest and how they help their clients, their customers, and the problems that they solve. You may even be their ideal client and want to learn more about them and download one of their free resources you can find in the show notes, or maybe even become a client of theirs. See, when you're a guest on a podcast, you will enjoy that same kind of engagement. It is perhaps the easiest, most cost-effective way to get in front of new audiences. Learn how you can be a guest on the right podcast and engage with your ideal clients with the free resources available at gapologist.com. I was just thinking, affiliate marketing is still something that people get involved with today. And yeah. I don't know how big it is out there, but I see it, every once in a while I see affiliate marketing.
It's big. I know people that do it, as a model and, in different ways. I still know a lot of those people that I hung out with back in those years that are still dabbling in that stuff or doing really well at it. There's different ways to approach it. There's some of it's, there's list building components to it. So there's different models. Some of it, like bloggers can make money with affiliate marketing.
Sure.
I still bake it into some things. You'll see, like if you go to my blog, I have some banners on there, but I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about it because I'm running my agency. And but it's still something definitely that I think a lot about, and for a long-term plan or strategy, I definitely want it to be part of what I'm doing always, because it's just easy to do since you're doing stuff anyway. I'm doing more list building. We can get into that, but I'm actually focusing more on list building this year and starting to focus on that.
Yeah. Okay. So,
but anyway, so yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So what are you doing today?
So what happened was, so let's just cap off what happened there.
Perfect.
So in 2011, 12, I was trying all kinds of things. I was trying to pivot because I was having issues, like my model wasn't working. My membership was faltering because I couldn't teach the methods I used to and all that as well. I tried pivoting. I tried different things. I tried to survive. And eventually I just kind of got burned out and I needed to change.
Yeah.
And so
sounds like the world had changed. Your world of affiliate marketing, and with all the regulations and Google changing and all of that. And so you had to pivot.
I had no choice. And I mean, I could have kept trying to keep it going, but I tried that for a couple of years. At some point you got to say, okay,
it's over. It was a good run. It's over.
It was a good run. Let's cash out. Let's move in a different direction.
Sure.
So what I did though is at that point I did a self-assessment. I think this is important. If if you're doing something, maybe it's not failure so much in what you're doing, but maybe the industry's changed, the market's changed, right. Something outside of your control, right? Sometimes you got to hit pause and take some time to think about your life. You know, what do you want? Assess what happened, what you did, what you enjoyed about it, and can you turn something into something else? Can you do something else with all that experience? And for me, I thought a lot about all the things I did in that time frame, and one of the things I loved doing was building sites. And sometimes I like tinkering with sites more than the marketing of the sites. I would have, I was doing, building sites with WordPress and all these different platforms, and so I'm like, you know what? So I've been doing this for myself all these years. What if I started doing it for other people? That was the pivot.
That was the
And
pivot. You know,
yeah,
I think it's really significant what you said, to take a step back, take a pause, and evaluate where you've been, where you've enjoyed it, where you've had success, and how the world has changed. You know, and where you are today, and where you want to go towards the future. And it's kind of like working on your business instead of in your business, but you're working on yourself and
mm-hmm.
taking that time to really evaluate what's going on. I have morning questions. We may have spoken about this before, but there are 3 questions I ask myself in the morning. It's, what is happening? Why is it happening? What does it mean? What am I going to do about it? So that's 4 questions. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4. You know, and it's so important to take the step back and think about that. You know, because things are going to change. And you kept trying to do the same thing. I've fallen into that trap also, trying to keep things alive. You know, the market, the whole industry is going down, but you know, I'm going to stick to it. I'm not a give upper kind of guy.
Right.
I'm a stick to it kind of guy. But at a certain point, it's time to say, yeah, it was a good run. It's over. What am I going to do now? It's kind of scary in a way.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and so it wasn't clean. It took me a year, 2 years to really, you know, get myself back together, because I think I probably wouldn't admit it at the time or even think about it at the time, but I think I was sort of bummed out about it, you know, like I really loved what I was doing. And in hindsight, I think about, you know, what could I have done different? Maybe I should have become a consultant or a coach, or helped other people with their AdWords campaigns and got into that world. But I decided to do something completely different. And it took a couple of years, though. I was kind of half doing it, you know, half feeling it. And I was doing freelancing. I actually at the time was Elance. I think they got absorbed into Upwork, and so I was starting to get work that way, word of mouth, and then the big turning point was a friend of mine that I'd known from my internet marketing days. I spoke at a couple of his seminars he ran, and I was talking to him one day. We'd touch base once in a while, you know, just jump on a call. Hey, what's up? What's new? And we got on a call. He's like, so what are you doing now? I said, well, I'm doing web development, design, and I'm specializing in WordPress because that's my thing, because I'd been using WordPress since the early days. And he's like, you know, my partner, his partner had this idea about building WordPress themes. And not to make this too long of a story, but we started having some meetings, and we started formulating some ideas about building themes to sell, you know, not as a service, but as a product. And so I started. I built that framework, built the boilerplate kind of from scratch, from the ground up, and built the processes around that. And we started selling themes, and they had a decent sized list, but we'd sell thousands in a crack. And then we decided to, then they ended up hiring me. And so I actually worked for them for 3-4 years. So like a year on contract and then 3 years as an employee. And all I did was build WordPress themes, and we built a marketplace in that time frame. And in those years, I really focused on learning my craft, getting really good at WordPress, even deeper, you know, learning how to program more and all that stuff. And these guys were super smart, and learned a lot from them because they had been in the software industry for decades. And so outside of that, once they eventually got out of the WordPress business, so I eventually left. But in that time frame, I'd also built a team. So I'd learned it was a US-based team, and I had like 5-6 people helping me with building out these themes and designing, building them. And I learned a ton in that time frame. And when I came out, we get to what I'm doing now. When I came out of that, I'm like, what am I doing now? Am I going to go back to freelancing, work for somebody else again? Because that was nice. It was nice getting a salary for a while.
Sure.
But I decided, you know what? Let's try to build an agency. So I got a domain. I built a little website for web and named it Unified Web Design. Designed and created a little logo, and 5 years later, I'm still here.
Okay. And you started building websites for clients?
Yeah, well, yes and no. So right when I left that company, we can say who it is, Rapid Crush. When I left Rapid Crush, I had hired people while I was at Rapid Crush. I had to fire them. So I hired them and then I had to fire them. Not my fault.
Right.
But we all stayed good friends. So right out of that, one of them had gone back to freelancing. So he'd been doing that again for like half a year. And he's like, I got this business I'm helping, I could use your help with them. And odd thing there is I actually helped him get that because I was when he was going to get that job, I actually talked to the lady there, like used me as a reference. So I ended up doing work for them. So I was out of the gates. It was basically maintaining that website and helping them with features and fixing things and whatever. So that's where I kind of dove into the freelance and then the agency. But in my head, I wanted to build sites and build them, design and develop full sites. So I was going in that direction. And then I did the Upwork thing, started getting a few things there. But yeah, eventually by that summer, I had some larger projects, full projects, started working on for clients. And so it was kind of not neatly just into just starting to build sites. I just took whatever I could, especially the first 6 months.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people begin their business, especially a service business that has a low barrier to entry. Now you had all the knowledge, right? But anyone can put a plaque on their door and say, I build websites, right? And you take whatever you can at that point. You take whatever comes your way. Later, you think maybe I shouldn't have taken that on, right?
Yeah. You learn what you want, and what you don't want. But
right.
Yeah, in the beginning, that first year was just getting established. It was getting something going. And so I was open to taking what I could. I mean, I certainly had a target, like the type of projects I wanted, kind of sort of a vague knowing that, it's going to probably be WordPress. It's probably going to be, but in terms of having a vertical or having a niche, particular niche or some kind of strategy around that, I didn't really have that in the beginning. It was just like, let's see where this,
see where it goes
it out first.
Yeah, that's perfect, man. When I started my language school, I'd take on any client. Any time of day I could fit them in, I'd take them on. And, and it was only after my schedule got full and I couldn't do it anymore. And I hired some people to help out, and I started being a little more particular about taking on clients and what time we would take them on and how we would fit that into the whole scheduling scheme. But in the beginning, it was like, we need money in the door. We'll take any. Oh, your son is 2 years old? Yeah, we'll teach him English,
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And then once and plus you need a little time. Well, the way I approached it anyway, because I was kind of like, just dove right into this business, and it's a kind of a unique business because, I could work on my own. So I was profitable from day one, right? Because I wasn't paying anybody. I didn't have any overhead,
right?
Except a few tools that I had. But it took a little while to kind of, take on all these different types of projects and start listening and seeing what people needed, what their pain points were. And then I started working with other agencies, doing work for them and hearing what their pain points were and what I could solve for them. And that was a couple of weeks in, or a couple of years in, is when I started to realize that was the first thing I focused on. That was going to be my my vertical, was digital marketing agencies. Like, we were going to remain, even though I have that internet marketing background and all this stuff, I was going to be a web design development agency and interface and help extend other teams in other agencies. And it was a great fit for me because I do have that broader knowledge. So I'm able to speak their speak and understand their, when I'm linking up with a marketing team, I understand what they need. And so it was a really great fit. So I for at least a year, that was a huge focus in building that part of my business. And so we got a lot of, a bunch of great agency partnerships, even a local one here in Milwaukee area, a large agency that we help out. And so that's created a great foundation. And then we learn other things. Like I sold a couple large maintenance contracts. In the beginning, I thought, it'd be great to do maintenance for websites. And, maybe I could charge them $200-$300 a month.
Yeah.
And then I learned, no, I can get a few $1,000s a month or more.
For the bigger website, sure.
Right. So depending on, you look at value pricing, if you use that model or, and so I started creating packages around these things. And so really I landed on, I still focus on agencies because, it's a huge part of our business, but also we have these maintenance contracts, but that all took time. It all took time to figure out and test the waters and see what works, see what I get. And when I get something I really love or that's lucrative, then let's do more of that.
So would you say it's correct that as you were building this along the years, you had more of a compass pointing you in the direction where you wanted to go, more of a compass kind of situation than a particular road that you wanted to take?
I knew when I left that company that I was going to be in the web design development space, right? Because I had established that years before, right? This is what I do. So I knew I knew what my craft was, but how that was going to shake out in terms of a business and an agency, I didn't know. I didn't really have, and I probably knew. Because I already had the experience with WordPress, I knew it was going to be a lot of WordPress. But in terms of exactly the type of projects and the type of client I was looking for, I didn't have. So I was kind of moving in a direction, but it was kind of, not defined.
Right, not defined.
Super defined.
And
yeah.
Now, as you went along, it became more defined.
Became more defined, and also the strategy started to gel, right? So a couple of years in, now this is a little over 2 years ago, I hired my first developer and started to build a team. And then I hired somebody to help me with marketing. And first couple of years, I did very little marketing. It was mostly word of mouth or doing, your freelance sites and stuff. And but then I started to actually market and build content. So I always knew I would come from the content marketing days. I always knew I was going to do content and social media and probably SEO at some point. And so for the last couple of years, content's been a huge thing. That's why I started my podcast. That's why I show up on social media. I'm top of mind for everybody out there that follow me. And so that really having that, that's really worked out well because we're out there, we have a presence, and that has reaped us more clients. Just even people I've known from the past find me and, that's what you're doing, and all kinds of interesting things have happened over the last couple of years, and the business has keeps growing. So team keeps growing. It's good.
It sounds like a little bit like the snowball effect. The snowball starts at the top of the mountain at just a little tiny snowball you could put in your hand. And as it rolls down the hill, it picks up more snow and it gets bigger and bigger and larger. And it's hard to stop.
Yeah. And sometimes I was having this thought this morning, like maybe we should pause marketing right now because I've got a lot of business coming in, which is a hard problem to have, right?
Tough problem.
But no, as soon as I was starting to be able to define, like I had a vertical, like I was going after agencies, and now we've defined another one, and we're going to go after it. We're going after insurance agencies, and so we actually have an actual vertical now that we're going after. But because we're doing these things, we're able to now, like all our content, everything, and all our strategy, and the people we want to network with is more clear.
More clear, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
much clearer.
It's
And so
easy.
we're building that audience. Yeah.
It's so much easier to talk to a niche and a small group of people than it is to talk with everybody.
Yeah. I can't
And
talk with everybody.
you can't talk with everybody because then you're talking with nobody. And insurance agencies are going to look for you and they're going to say, oh, Matt is focused on insurance agencies. Here's this other guy. He does everything. I think I want to talk with Matt. I mean, that would be
Yeah.
my process. That would be my thinking process.
Well, yeah, insurance agencies is strategic too. It's actually a partner of mine, one of the agencies that help us out. We had met for lunch one day last year, and we were talking about ideas, just throwing ideas back and forth. And I was talking about my background in insurance and stuff. He's like, you spent a decade doing, selling insurance. You had agencies and all this stuff. Why aren't you going after the insurance agencies, or the insurance niche? You have that background. It'll be easy for you to sell. You know what they want. You know what they need. And I'm like, it's not that I hadn't thought about it before, but it never really gelled until that moment. And because we already have systems in place, because we already have an in-house framework to build WordPress themes, we have the team. Now, like, it just seemed the perfect moment. Like, okay, so yeah, let's define this and let's go after these guys. And because we don't have to we're not doing anything new. We're just going to transform what we're doing for their particular needs.
Right.
It's just add on some other services and stuff. So
right.
Yeah.
It's a small. It's how would you say? It's a small jump to the left or the right, and you take most of what you have with you.
Yeah.
And then you're adding a little bit more and defining it and changing the words. I once met a guy and he wrote a book that was, and I forget what it was, but it was like staying hydrated for health, right? And then he wrote a book, staying hydrated for construction workers, staying hydrated for road crews, how roof workers can stay hydrated. And he made all of these books, and each one he marketed to that niche. Now, what changed in the book? As far as I know, he did like a find and replace,
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
It seems like you're cheating, but it really makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And I've talked to other business owners who've done similar things like that, and it's leveraging what you got. Like, take what you got. You don't have to reinvent the wheel and do something completely different. Take what you got and see if you can adapt it to something else. And that's why it was natural for us. We sell a WordPress plugin.
That's right. Natural.
I wonder why we sell a WordPress plugin. So we're a WordPress shop, so that was just, so it gives my guys something to work on in between doing client projects and stuff. So it just made sense. And it's if you can find those, it's like like over the next year or 2 years, it's going to take us a little while to gain some traction. I'm talking to my first agency right now. And we're testing some ideas around the marketing of that. But if we can get that going and we can make that work and we can be successful there, then we could replicate that again.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we figure out the model there, going after this particular vertical, or we could just spend all our time in that one and just offer more and more services, back end help, or all kinds of things we can do there. So, so that's kind of how I kind of view, my business. I don't see an end to my business. Like, there isn't a destination. There's okay, this is where we are today. Like, what's the next idea? How can we scale this and this, or try this thing? And I'm always thinking about, I don't always think of like we've arrived.
Right.
Like, what's the optimum team size? What, this is all we're going to do now. Like, no, what's that? How can we leverage what we have and do something new?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah.
It's all part of the journey, and the journey doesn't have to stop. Now, some people stop and they're very happy where they are, and they just want to maintain. That might be a little dangerous in some markets. But it doesn't have to stop. There's always more adventure. There's always more to learn. There's always more to provide and larger impacts to make.
I think that what makes us entrepreneurs, right? We love the process of building the business.
Yes.
I love the process of marketing and strategizing and do all of that stuff. That's a big part of
That's the
the
fun
fun
stuff.
of it. I love getting in the code. I love helping my designer design stuff and, working as a team. I love building a team too. I love all those aspects. But as just overall, I think somewhere along the line, I fell in love with just business in general. That's why I have a business podcast too.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
I love talking about it. That's why I'm here.
I talk about it all day. I love it. I've been involved with small business my entire life.
Yeah.
It's just I've started a number of them. I've killed a number of them. I've grown them. I've sold them. It's
Yeah.
been so much fun. It's just an adventure. That's the journey, right? That's the journey.
That's the journey.
Matt, we have come to the point of the lightning round.
Oh.
I feel like
Okay.
I need a little musical introduction there. The lightning round.
You do. You can do that later.
Yeah, that would be cool.
You can do
All
it,
right,
do it in post.
let's do this. Matt, how has your entrepreneurial journey transformed you?
How has it transformed me? I think, looking back at myself a couple decades ago, so old. I think, my instincts are better. My confidence is better. We didn't get into a lot of the stories, but I had a lot of failures as well, or bad partnerships. And people it was much easier to take advantage of Matt.
Oh, gosh.
A lot of unscrupulous people out there.
Not
right?
not so easy now, right?
That's
a
but
good thing.
well, you learn what to look for, and you also have confidence in what you do in your craft, there's now it's like I know who I am, what I am. It would be very difficult to become my partner. You would have to go through quite a stringent process. You just learn those things. So I think what's transformed me is the experience and all those failures and successes along the way, and just it turns you into a more confident business person.
Okay. Second question: what most surprised you as a business owner?
So this one, I think I'm gonna keep in the context of my agency. For somebody that's come from internet marketing, doing a lot of pay-per-click, a lot of SEO, all that, driving traffic, and it's very easy for me to fall into that mindset, especially in the early days. But I think what ended up happening, and this is something that happened about a year and a half ago, I had an epiphany or a aha moment. I realized, and it was magnified by us starting to do social and do all the content and stuff, that actually the core of what was making us successful and how we were getting business was through networking. Networking, what became, and it still is today, the most important thing that drives business for us, and building relationships and all of that stuff. We're still we're still doing social, we're doing SEO and stuff like that, but all of that feeds into networking and getting in front of people, and meeting people and interacting, engaging.
Sure. It's all about the conversation and engagement. Sure.
Yeah.
What unexpected challenge have you had to overcome?
Again, I'm going to keep it in the context.
Let's just keep it to one.
It's actually a very recent thing. As my agency has grown and my team has grown, I have about 10 people now, and 7 full-time, couple, full part-time people that fill in and help me. But through that growth and more clients and more agencies we're working with, one of the craziest things that I've struggled with this past year is our project management has been a real challenge, like actually scaling up our solution. I'm not going to get deep in detail here, but I consider ourselves an Atlassian shop for the last couple of years. We use Trello, Confluence, to manage projects. And we got to a point where we kind of outgrew it. and the way our agency was designed and the number of things we were doing. And it became so difficult. I even got a project manager last year to help me out with things, but it was still really difficult to see what everyone was doing and just manage all of that. And this past weekend, we moved off of there and we've gone to ClickUp. And we've started a new era in project management. But I think that surprised me because I didn't think about it as much. Like I thought, well, you just get a tool, right? And it's just going to work, especially something as popular as Trello. How many companies use it? We can make it work. I had to do so much to try to bend and twist and make it do what we needed to do and get the insights I needed to run a team like this. And yeah, so it's kind of more of a technical kind of
but
project management oriented thing, but it's something that I wouldn't have expected would be a challenge as we grow.
So now you're changing, and hopefully that new program ClickUp will keep you going for a few years.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah,
so
good.
Much better.
Super. All right. Fourth question, Matt. What book has made a big impact on you, and who would you recommend it to?
Ooh, okay, so this is a good one because I've read like hundreds of books, I swear, over the years, dozens in just the last couple of years. And I think, and it's odd because you could say your old standby, read Think and Grow Rich, changed my life, or those popular books out there. But there's one book in particular that really stands out for me because of the application of it, that it literally I've been able to plug it in and actually apply it to my business. And it made me change how I manage my finances and everything. And that's Profit First by 𝐬𝐞𝐭𝐭 𝐋𝐞𝐬𝐽𝐻 or something like that. Profit First, it was actually recommended to me from one of our partner agencies. Thank you, Brian. And, he said, have you checked out this book? I don't know what we were talking about, but he's like, do this because I've implemented this in my agency and it's changed. It's amazing. And it's really just about building. And it's kind of, it blended in with what I do pretty well because I've been profitable from the beginning and it's kind of an important thing for me. Yeah. But this helped me systemize that more and really bake it into everything we do and the decisions we do. And it's really just about, instead of profit coming after your expenses, your expenses come after your profits.
Okay.
You take your profits first. And it's a really cool system. Definitely check it out.
Yeah. Profit first.
Profit first.
And that would be good for any entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I would say, like, I would recommend it to another agency, but I think any entrepreneur, it's pretty popular. It's I don't know, like a lot of people.
Yeah. It's one of those known business books out there.
Yeah. It's one of those known. And that one, and again, it's just something that stands out just because it is something I was able to turn around and actually apply to my business. And it's really helped. So.
Awesome. Okay. Last question. What advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur in your industry?
Remain flexible with your strategy. We talked about earlier, like, I think that's a good one. We talked about earlier how, like, I had to adapt and I had to kind of always reviewing and tweaking and because in the beginning I had a very rough strategy. I just knew I wanted to, build sites. But over time, as you get stuff, be open to following leads, trying different things. I was just talking to our friend AJ.
Yeah.
he was just on my podcast, and AJ and I were talking about strategy and stuff, but he was talking about how, he had tried all these different he was getting different clients and he realized, I don't really want to work with that kind of client or that type of business. And now he's found his thing. And it takes, it takes time to sometimes find your thing. So you have to have a strategy that's flexible enough and that you can, change it, revisit it often. And because every year I know I look at stuff and, what are we focused on this year? What's our strategy? Is our strategy working? Has anything changed? Do we need to change our content? Do we need to change what we're focused on? this quarter to keep us pushing forward and growing. So
Yeah,
I think that's probably it.
it's so important because the world is changing, and we're changing ourselves. We're evolving. Our company's evolving. Our people are evolving, and our clients are growing and changing also. So keeping that flexibility in mind and not being so fixed on one thing, right? You don't want to be the leader of your company that goes down with the ship.
No.
Right? Be the leader of your ship up on the post, up high, looking over the horizon to know which direction to go. And people,
you're always looking, right? You're always looking for the next opportunity. We're like people freaking out now about AI and stuff and how it's going to take jobs and it's probably going to have some disruption. But you want to be that person that's like, okay, how can we use that? And how can we, looking forward to where that might be heading, keep paying attention to that. And maybe you can leverage something that can, maybe you go in a little different direction, change your strategy.
Right. It's an opportunity. It is fearful for some people, but it's also an opportunity for people. And, the recommendation is obviously to look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Matt, it has been a great conversation.
It just goes so fast.
I know. Thank you for coming on the show again. And
it's good to be here.
If people want to know more about you and more about your agency, where can we direct them?
Well, you can go to my agency site's unifiedwebdesign.com, and you can learn all about what we do there. I also have a blog, mattlevenhagen.com, that kind of branches out to everything else. I've been talking more about, I refocused my content there this year to talk more about teams and processes and things like that. So really exciting topics.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, well, for a lot of people, they are, right?
My wheelhouse. Yeah. But yeah. And then you can always find me on social media, Matt Levenhagen. I'm everywhere. LinkedIn is my biggest home. Hang out there the most. We got Unified Web Designs on there too. You can follow our company page if you want.
Okay, and we'll have all of that information in the show notes.
All right.
Very good, Matt. Once again, thank you much for sharing.
Thanks for having me. Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Entrepreneur Journeys. Remember to subscribe so you catch all the episodes and check out the show notes for any free giveaways or gifts that were mentioned during this show. Entrepreneur Journeys is brought to you by 𝐬𝐞𝐵, providing the insights, tools, and transformative structures to help you reach your business summit. I'm your show host, Joe Matz, and until next time, I hope your journey is filled with breathtaking views and successful outcomes.